Hello there, I'm Moldy, and there's still a week left to grab your limited edition t-shirt. Looks a bit like this, slightly brighter, and has some text on it. But that's not why we're here today. Today has been roughly a month. Let me check that. I realize I'm just outing my home screen now, but if we go back to my channel, the last time I modified, and the only time I modified this Onyx Cinder must have been about a month ago, 4 weeks ago. There's only 4 weeks in February, so we'll take it. I remember being left in that video with a few more things that I wanted to do to the ship, and they've all been done to one side. There is the problem with the axle here, which used to house the engine, and the really satisfying play mechanism where you could twist the engines, take off, and then twist them back to jump to hyperspace. And we will be sorting that out in this video. I've left it for the video so I can show you, and so if any of you do want to remove these front engines, they are a bit of an eyesore compared to what could be on the front of the Onyx Cinder. You can see here I have already modified it. It looks so sleek, and personally I think this looks a lot better. So we'll be taking a look at that today. I've also modified the claw, some big modifications to the claw. If you don't remember the last video, basically what we did is added a claw which holds Jod, which holds, I think it was Gunter, which holds basically anyone you want. And we've also got the custom minifigure. I almost forgot, we also made a short removing the stickers from this set, so I'll be going over that very briefly, and in fact, I could just play you the short. For the engines that do remain, we're going to be replacing the sticker on the inside with this piece that has come in many different sets, and swap this vent 2x2 piece with the printed one that comes in a few of the Lego Falcons. This 2x4 here, and then put in a jumper with a tooth right in the middle of it. We will also see another stickered 2x4, a 1x2 grill tile. Even if you don't have this piece, you can use a 2x2 jumper with a corner tile to give a similar shape this 2x2 tile, which I'm just going to put a plain one there. So hopefully now you know exactly what stickers to replace with exactly what bricks, and we've made some more room for perhaps even another compartment. We'll start off with the minifigures, which are usually in the display behind me. And not only have I 3D printed the display that they're standing on, but most of these Skeleton Crew minifigures are themselves 3D printed, hand painted, and decaled by myself. We've got a few of Gunter and the Pirate Gang at the top to join Vane. We've also got some of the security droids, definitely remind me of the ones that Galen uses in Rogue One. And then we've also got Kim, who is the owl-like creature that they do meet halfway through the show and then pops up again towards the end. This Twi'lek is not a part of the Skeleton Crew. I don't remember seeing specifically a Twi'lek play a big role. It might have been a Twi'lek they bumped into actually on the Pirate Hangout. But then we got the 5 minifigures that come with this set, and SM33, which the headpiece over on Maker World is available to download if you do have a 3D printer and are lucky enough to have the skills to print this for yourself. But since you've already seen the minifigures, let's get on to the actual build. We've got a little bit of work here to do today, but also the claw has been completely moved. You see, the claw used to be at the front of the ship, and I might regret making this change, but I've actually moved it to the back of the ship, and there is a big reason why I have done that. But let's stick with the front of the ship for just 1 second. Like I said, we will be replacing some of the plates and tiles on the side. It's really easy. All the pieces you need are actually right here. In fact, we could even do better and continue that stripe down the ship. And that's one of the best things with Lego. You don't just have to do these modifications and leave the ship as it is. Please, I encourage you to make changes to this as we're going through. I definitely think the white stripe looks a little better. And I tell you what, let's get straight on to this modification, and we'll take a look at the claw a bit later on. So what you're going to want to do is kind of pull the ship apart just a little bit, enough so we can get rid of that axle in the middle. And we'll also be removing something on the inside. But to do that, we're going to need to be able to access the interior of this ship. So first off, and I have done this with the other side, so hopefully this side goes as smoothly, you're going to want to take off this plate just on top, held in by a few jumpers, really easy to pop off. Same with this piece actually that goes over the top. It's held in by just one axle on the back here. fairly easy to pop out, and we're actually going to be modifying this first. Taking a look at this section of the hole that we've now got to work with, you can see the only big problem with it is this gap in here, and that's basically all we're trying to change. So first off, we can get rid of these 1x3 tiles either side and the 1x2 tile just on top here, as we won't be needing that. Likewise on the other side, we're not going to need these wedge brackets on either side or this 1x2 door rail piece. So those are going, and they are going for good. And then the two elements we're going to want to change are this longer piece here and this little black 2x2, and replace it with a similar size 2x12 piece like I have here, and this should reach all the way to the end. We're probably going to need a 2x2 in dark bluish grey, which I do believe we had on the other side. No, it was a corner bracket because we had then the cockpit. So we're going to want to get a 2x2 in dark bluish grey, but just like the rest of the pieces that we're using in this modification, I have plenty of those to spare. With these elements, we're going to line up to the, in fact, you could probably, could we clip it on? No, just can't clip it on. You could line up to the gap where these three 2x3 tiles are going to go. You don't have to use 2x3 tiles. I mean, we do have two of the 1x3s in the set. Definitely make use of those if you are trying to save some of the elements, but place them one stud in from the far end, from the front end of the ship, and just start transferring all these pieces over. So we're going to want to leave that 2x2 black element behind. You could even use that on the end of this, or use a 2x12, 2x14 in dark bluish grey, and then just start transferring all of these pieces over. We'll probably go with the long door rail next. It's probably the hardest to squeeze in, and just like that, we've got most of the wing already built. So I think you can see where this is going. It's not all of these are going to be to your fancy, and if you do want to make any specific changes, I definitely recommend doing them whilst it's not attached to the ship. And there we go, we have our first modification. You can see it's nice stripy with a white stripe that continues down into this 4x4 circular arched element poking out of the ship. So that's going to be our next big problem, but to deal with that, we're going to want to flip the ship under a little bit and take off this large Dorito. And to do that, again, fairly simple. It's only held in by this pin here. You could grab something like a brick separator and try to poke it out, or maybe a bar element would do better. But I found that pulling it from the bottom, removing this cheese slope on the foot, and just giving it a pull from this large corner, pulls it out all the same. And just because I don't want to have to line up an axle, I'm going to have to grab a pin and push it out anyway. Darth Vader to the rescue. We won't be making any changes to this large Dorito shape here, so we can just push that to the side. And now the next complicated thing to do is to try and loosen this black Technic bar element that is holding pretty much everything else together, and it's held in over here by these triangles. Pretty easy to pop off, and there's also a pin underneath this plate. So once we pop that off, we can expose the really troublesome pin that is keeping it in, because not only is it keeping it on the ship, but it's also keeping it attached into the legs. So this plate at the bottom gives you enough wiggle room to bend that away slightly, and when it's unconnected, the whole thing should just pull out fairly straightforward. It will take quite a few different Lego bricks and other Technic features with it, but the big thing we want to do is pull it out enough so that this Technic axle here is exposed, and we can just push that straight through and remove it. So this is the Technic axle that goes straight through this 4x4 rounded outside, and this tan bar in the middle. And whilst we're here, we're also going to be taking out this black T on both sides. This is just for a bit more room later on, definitely not necessary, but everything else you want to keep as it is, and this should just slide somewhat easily back into place. That was fairly easy. As you can see, this pin has gone back in fairly smoothly. Had a few troubles on the other side. It's quite an awkward one to push in, and you'll know it's flat. Well, that's our next step gone. We don't even need to remove the circular piece on the end. It just flicks off when there's not enough support. You'll know it's gone smoothly when all of these Technic pieces line up, especially this black 2-length one right on the end. Just make sure you're not putting any stress on this Technic brick. Most of the ship does go back quite regularly. We do have this brand new element, which is just a 1x8 door rail. Lego have used a black one, I've used dark bluish grey. But again, if you have more light bluish grey, that also works with the colour theme of the ship. Some would probably argue that the whole thing has to be light bluish grey, as we're doing it with the hull removed. But this has a 2x2 white wedge on the side. It used to be dark bluish grey, but we're continuing the stripe with white and 2 1x1s. They can be quarter tiles, they can be quite literally anything. So this is a fairly easy modification to make to your ship. Piece the ship back together, any bits that have fallen off, try to remember where they've come from, and hopefully they'll be able to go back on. I feel like this might need to be just half a stud further over than where I've clipped it back in. And if you are struggling at any point, definitely go back to the instructions. It's a fairly easy ship to put back together. We're then going to put back the giant Dorito, and this is actually why we've gone with that 1x2 or 2x2 slope at the end, because otherwise this thing wiggles like crazy. You can see, no, you can't really see, it's not really wiggling that much anymore, but the slope holds it in just like that round 4x4 would have done before it jumped onto the floor. Best pick that up before I forget it later. And same with the top, it goes into this 2x2 brick with the axle hole just in the middle. You will want to remove these slope elements, which are handy for modifications elsewhere on the ship if you would like to make those, and that fits in nice and snugly. And because we've removed these T-bars from the middle bit here, we've got 2 of the tan jumpers, both sides. We've got these Technic bricks, and of course the T-bars themselves, and a little bit more room in the interior. I've put down a 1x4 bar on the nose of the ship just to support it so it's not resting on the front panel, but you could probably even leave it resting on the front panel there, and it holds it in pretty well. We can shake this thing upside down and this thing isn't falling off anytime soon. So that's a really nice connection. I guess not as secure. You probably don't want to be knocking this into any sort of walls, but it's good enough for me. And it also has that extra little bit of interior if you wanted to sneak a few stowaways. Now it's time for the claw. The claw chooses who will go and who will stay. And as you can see, the claw is in the back, but not only have we switched up the fangs of the claw, I did have 2 hanging around somewhere. Not only have we switched the fangs of the claw from these giant T-Rex to the smaller ones, which I think is a bit more size accurate and makes it a little easier to hang some minifigures from the claw. We've also switched up the connection that is made to hold the claw. Originally, we just had this clip and bar joint that was held up by some dodgy underslope work to try and get as many studs holding this into the front of the ship. There's really not enough room in the front, but in the back we have so much more, where there used to be some containers storing little bits and bobs. And the best thing, when we move the landing gear, you might be able to see it. It's a slight difference from afar, but it definitely adds up over time. If I add the bottom of the ramp, because it does go all the way down to the bottom of the ramp and then pulls itself up out of the way, that's right, I have added this claw, and it's a fairly straightforward addition if you did want to try and make this yourself. No Technic work is involved, at least not any that isn't already part of the ship. Of course, we've got the Technic bar that actually drops the thing and raises it back up, but it also moves it out of the way when it is up, so we can close the entire hatch and then swing it down, and the claw just pops out. I think this is one of the best play features I have added into a Lego set, and now let's take a closer look at how it works. From this angle, you might be able to see just a little bit better, or worse, I don't really know how the claw works. It's in there, and then it swings out. It's kind of hidden away enough for the ramp to fold up, and then it swings out holding, any of the minifigures we see with it in the show. And I think this is a really, really fun feature, especially when it's landing. I guess the engines would probably be in this orientation, ready to lift off and take off. But I think this is really, really fun. And how I've made this possible is, again, with this little hidden compartment that we've already used to hold all of the kids' torches in here. But this claw is held on, rather than with studs, it's held on with a rope, which is what allows it to swing and appear a bit more realistic. This rope is positioned up around the mechanism. You see this blue joint here. The rope is hooked just around that enough to move with the landing gear up and down. And then the spare bits of the rope, I've just run through 2 of these bright red studs so that you can see them better on camera. And the rest of the rope is just, you know, snaked around there to fit in. Because I've moved the torches over to the left, I have removed one of the 1x3 tan slopes just to fit them in. And there probably is enough room at the top to squeeze Jod's blaster like we did in the last video. But again, this mechanism fits nice and snug into here and is honestly one of the best play features I have ever added to a Lego model. It just makes it so much better. After I made the first video with the modifications to the Onyx Cinder, I made a list of everything that I wanted to do. We had the stickers, we had an improved claw that actually looks like what you see in the movie. I don't think we're getting much better than this feature, and then also getting rid of the axles at the front and making it a sleeker model. We could have gone with something quite fairly easy to do and just recolor the dark bluish grey to light bluish grey. I honestly don't think it looks too bad as it is, and I would like to just spray this entire model in some nice silver chrome spray paint, but I don't want to hurt any of the Lego bricks, so maybe I'll just wait for someone else to do that online. But this is everything I could think of to do with the Onyx Cinder. Again, if you want to check out the other fixes or modifications in greater detail, definitely check out that first video, because there are some that I haven't shown you, like the double walkie-talkie, and I'm not sure if we did anything else to the space inside. But that has been all for today's video. Again, really happy that I have finished this up just before I break it down to build another mock. That's right, there is a mock of this set specifically coming very, very soon. Very, very different to anything we've seen in Skeleton Crew. So this is the final time and final opportunity to take a look at the Lego Onyx Cinder in Lego form. This ship has been built absolutely superbly, and again, I have reviewed the original set, so I'll leave both of those on the end screen. I hope you're all excited for what this is about to become, because I'm really excited to start actually putting this together. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy the modifications we made, and may the bricks be with you always.